Hey there. Thank you for joining me for some Friday fun. As excited as I am that the Chicago Bears beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady last night, that's not what we're going to talk about this week. Maybe next week, probably next week, but not this week. This week, I have some book recommendations that I wanted to share. I have been doing plenty of reading as I normally am, and I wanted to share a couple fun reads that I've had recently. And I also want to admit that this isn't going to sound fun to everyone. I have very unique tastes when it comes to reading. And so I wanted to kind of share some stuff I read recently that I really enjoyed and why I enjoy reading books like these. So I have been reading some nonfiction historical books recently, and when I read a nonfiction kind of history kind of book, I'm not talking about, the history books that you get for school. A really good history is a book that lays out the story of history and shows you how things have come together. And a lot of times it will sound a lot more like a story than it does just the facts of what happened when, where, to who. And so both of these are incredible stories that are very interesting to read. And they're really good. So the first is called A Spy Among Friends by Ben Mcintyre. And it is the story of Kim Philby, who was a spy for England during the Cold War, but he was serving as a double agent for the Soviet Union. And he was able to sell out almost everything that the British and the US were attempting to do against the Soviet Union. So Kim Philby was able to undermine almost everything that the US and England were hoping to get done during the Cold War. To the point that people who were connected to the CIA or to MI6, the British spying agency, people connected to those agencies said that because of Kim Philby and the damage that he did, it would have been better if England and the US had done nothing. They would have gotten more accomplished against the Soviet Union if they'd done absolutely nothing, because everything that they did went to Kim Philby, and Kim Philby turned those secrets over to the Soviet Union, and pretty much any time the US or England were attempting a spy mission against the Soviet Union, it was to the detriment of the US and England, all because of Kim Philby. And he got access to these secrets not because of his position necessarily. He got access to a lot of these secrets because of his friends. And it really is a story about friendship, about who Kim Philby was friends with and the connections that were made. And Kim Philby's two really influential friends were Nicholas Elliot and James Jesus Angleton. Nicholas Elliot was a spy in MI6, relatively successful, had moved up the ladder, ended up involved in some pretty major missions for MI6 during the Cold War, and would talk to Kim Philby as one of his closest friends, and Kim Philby was able to just completely sell him out. James Jesus Angleton was the head of the CIA and became close friends with Kim Philby and would tell Kim Philby things that the CIA was doing, and Kim Philby completely sold him out. It is a real shame that all of this happened. And in reading the story, you kind of just get the general story, but it also tells it through the relationships. So you see a lot about Nicholas Elliot and Angleton's relationship with Philby You see a lot of that relationship come through. And you see a lot about how not just Kim Philby was impacted, but how Nicholas Elliott was impacted. Nicholas Elliott, in a lot of ways, is one of the main characters of the book A Spy Among Friends. You also see James Jesus Angleton when he comes into play, but it's really the interplay between Nicholas Elliott, who was a very loyal friend, loyal to England, and Philby, who made these friends and valued these friends, but all along was betraying these things that he held dear. And it's very hard for us to get that, but it was a key point of the book that it was a very thought out, intentional move for Kim Philby. He said that he deeply valued his friends, but anytime that anything came up, even friends, came up against politics, he had to value politics first. And you see the effect that has on Kim Philby. You see the effect that it has on all these other relationships. A Spy Among Friends, written by Ben Mcintyre. If you like James Bond, if you like spy novels, you will like this book. It was so well written. It's so well done. The second book that I recently read, it's called Sniper, Inside the Hunt for the Killers Who Terrorized the Nation. And it's written, and I'm sorry if I butcher these names, it's written by Sari Horwitz and Michael Ruane. It's a book about the DC sniper killings in 2002. It's really hard for me to say that that's history because it happened in 2002. I remember this stuff happening. I remember thinking that if a sniper will be shooting people in the Washington, D.C. suburbs, this kind of thing could happen in Indiana. Like, why couldn't it happen anywhere else? It was a scary time. The book walks you through kind of the story of the two snipers, John Muhammad and Jay Malvo. And I don't fully remember Malvo's first name. It might be John Malvo, but I don't remember Malvo's first name. So Jay Malvo and John Muhammad walks you a little bit through their story enough to be able to follow them and what they're doing. And it walks you through the investigation, the mistakes that were made that allowed things to go on as long as they did, the work that they attempted to do to follow up and work through finding Muhammad and Malvo. You witness a number of the shootings. You don't witness every shooting that gets attributed to Muhammad and Malvo, but you witness a lot of them as you read through the story of the book. It was really well done. I really enjoyed the book until I got to the end. And the way that the book ended for me was you got to their arrest, you get just to the point that they're about to go on trial, and that was it. And the way that the book was written was leading up so that the trial was going to be the climax of these two men getting justice served to them, and this is the victory of the entire criminal system working as it's supposed to, where, even though there were some mistakes and some things didn't work out right, the investigators, the detectives, the police officers do the investigative work and they find the guy. And there were some issues that made it take longer than it should have, but they eventually get the right guys. And you have the prosecutors who are going to bring prosecution on them. And you have a judge who's going to hand down the sentence. But you never actually got that end. In the version that I read, it was very much an unfinished story. And I was very disappointed that, honestly, I'm disappointed this version was even published, to be transparent. Even though it was a good book, it just felt so incomplete. Now, when I went to look at this, I use an app called Goodreads to track what I'm reading, and I went to rate the book and comment on how I felt about it. I looked at some of the other reviews, and they mentioned that once the judge's sentence was passed, they updated the book with the judge's decision. You got to get that version of it. If you get a version that doesn't have that, you're going to be feeling like me, and it's like, well, I didn't finish the story. Like, there's something left. But it was so well written that you felt the pain of it not getting wrapped up with a judge's sentence. It was published. I'm pretty sure this first version was published before the judge's sentence happened. So kind of, writing as these things unfolded, saying, hey, this is what happened. You're hearing about this court case going on. Here's what happened. Here's what you need to know. And it was a good book. It was a really good book. But right there at the end, just didn't wrap up the way I wanted it to. So again, that book is Sniper: Inside the Hunt for the Killers Who Terrorized the Nation by Sari, Horwitz, and Michael Ruane. The first book I mentioned was A Spy Among Friends by Ben Mcintyre. They are wonderful stories. They are wonderfully written stories. If a famous author, James Patterson, Tom Clancy, name another very famous author, had written these books instead of them being histories, if they just wrote them as stories, Patricia Cornwell, then people would be lining up to buy a best-selling novel, but these are things that actually happened. And I enjoy reading history for that reason sometimes, that, well, this is a story that actually happened, but man, it's so interesting, it's so good. Sometimes you see things about people and it serves you as a warning. John Muhammad, it seems like, was just kind of unhinged and had a lot of issues, and reading through the story, John Muhammad is very much to blame for what happened. Malvo was a kid who needed a father figure, and the father figure who came into his life happened to be Muhammad. And it sounds like Malvo, it sounds like Malvo was mentally not all there and went through these shootings not mentally right, and because of that was able to be led into performing these awful acts. And how much blame you can place on Malvo. Obviously he did it, and obviously what he did was wrong, but just how susceptible he was to being led astray. You get a different perspective of what happened. And then everything with Kim Philby, with the relationships, the friendships that he made, and yet he prioritized politics, even to the point that he destroyed some of the relationships that mattered the most to him, that he would say mattered the most. He would still undermine and destroy those. And I really think that in reading history, you learn so much from human stories about other people and other perspectives, and you can learn a lot that can influence your own decisions when you're looking at doing something. And so I love reading history. I love reading these stories. They can be as engaging as a novel. They can be very helpful to learn and to grow as a person. So those are two books that I would encourage. I will put the title and author's names in the description below. But yeah, check them out. And thank you for joining me on this Friday. God bless you guys. Have some fun. Bye.